Philippine flags in the rain, chanting her name like they've known her their entire lives. And that's the part that makes this moment in Berlin feel unreal. Because tennis fans are supposed to be predictable. They're supposed to show up for home players, for Grand Slam champions, for rankings they recognize on paper. They're not supposed to flood a WTA 500 venue for a 21-year-old wild card from the Philippines who, just months ago, was still outside their regular viewing habits. But Alex Eala has quietly broken that rule. What's happening outside the Rotweiss Tennis Club isn't just fandom, it's recognition. Not of where she comes from, but of what she represents when she steps on court. Resilience under pressure, refusal to collapse in momentum swings, and that very specific kind of competitive fearlessness that makes crowds lean forward instead of sitting back. That's why Germans are standing in the rain with flags they didn't grow up with. That's why chants spread before broadcast cameras even arrived. And that's why tournament officials, who have seen every kind of tennis arrival imaginable, went silent when the black sedan stopped at the gate. Because this wasn't supposed to happen in Berlin. Not for a wild card. Not for a player ranked outside the very top tier. Not for someone still fighting for Wimbledon seeding points on a tight cutoff clock. And yet it did. Which is why Marcus Zok's earlier gesture lands so strongly in this atmosphere. His message, Berlin is behind you, Germany is behind you, you are part of our tennis family, isn't just symbolism anymore. In a strange way, the crowd outside is already acting like it's true. The rain doesn't scatter them. It hardens the scene instead. Flags stick to shoulders, jackets, railings. Phones are held high. Every arrival of movement near the entrance triggers a wave of anticipation, like the entire space is waiting for a single moment of confirmation. She is here. And when she finally steps out, that's where the emotional shift happens, not because of ceremony, not because of choreography, but because of reaction. A player walking into a venue is normally background noise in tennis. Here, it becomes the event itself. You can frame this in many ways. The Eala effect, breakthrough stardom, global tennis virality, but the simplest explanation might be the most accurate. People are responding to a player they feel they've watched become something in real time. Not a finished champion, not a polished superstar, but someone still in motion, still proving, still adjusting, still surviving matches that swing from control to chaos and back again. That's what makes Berlin different. And that's also why this story is bigger than one match, one tournament, or even one season. Because the moment a crowd in a neutral country starts behaving like a home crowd for a visiting player, tennis changes shape a little. Not officially, but emotionally. And Alex Eala is standing right at the center of that shift career, but nobody knew it yet. Because at that stage, she was still just another promising junior in a system that produces hundreds of them every year. Talented, disciplined, hardworking, but not yet separate. That separation came later. It came in the matches that didn't make headlines first. The tight 3-set losses where she didn't fold. The wins where she was physically outmatched, but tactically sharper. The tournaments where she wasn't supposed to go deep, but did anyway. Slowly, quietly, something began to change in how people spoke about her inside tennis circles. Not good prospect, not interesting junior, but something more uncertain, more dangerous, a player you had to account for. And that's the point where the story stops being about potential and starts becoming about trajectory. Because potential is theoretical. It can exist without ever becoming real. Trajectory is different. Trajectory means momentum, direction, evidence. And Alex Eala started collecting evidence. The move to the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain didn't just refine her technique. It exposed her to a completely different standard of expectation. Daily intensity, structured pressure, players who were all, like her, trying to prove they belonged in the same future. In that environment, talent is not enough. Everyone has talent. What matters is how you respond when talent is matched. And Eala didn't respond by retreating. She responded by accelerating. Coaches noticed it first. Not in one dramatic breakthrough moment, but in consistency. The way she adapted between matches. The way she absorbed losses without carrying them into the next day. The way she began to impose her game instead of reacting to others. Then tournaments started reflecting it. Then rankings started moving. Then the outside world, slowly at first, then all at once, started paying attention. Because tennis doesn't usually produce stories like this. Not from that starting point, not from that infrastructure, not with that speed of rise. And that's why, standing now in Berlin, years later, thousands of miles from Quezon City, far from the academy courts in Spain, the image feels almost unreal. A player who is never supposed to exist at this level, walking into a WTA event where crowds are chanting her name before she even touches a ball. Not because she was promoted by marketing, not because she was manufactured by hype, but because enough people have now watched her long enough to believe the same thing, that what began on a cracked court didn't stay there. It learned how to travel, and it kept going. Being written, something more important was happening on court, because crowds don't win matches. And diaspora energy doesn't hold serve. What matters, what always matters in tennis, is whether a player can convert attention into performance when the first ball is struck and the noise disappears. And that's where Birmingham stopped being a story about atmosphere and started becoming a story about control. Because Alex Eala didn't just play in that environment. She absorbed it, point by point, game by game, match by match. There's a particular kind of pressure that comes with playing in front of a crowd that feels emotionally invested in every swing of your racket. It can lift you, but it can also tighten you. Every mistake feels amplified. Every momentum shift feels heavier than it should. And yet what stood out in Birmingham wasn't fragility. It was composure. The ability to reset after errors without visible collapse. The refusal to let a bad service game become a bad set. The way she played the next point as for the season due to injury, which meant she was effectively right on the edge. One good run away from locking in Wimbledon seeding security, one bad week away from sliding into danger territory. And that's where Berlin stops being just another stop on the calendar. It becomes a pressure test. Because ranking points don't care about storylines. They don't care about crowds or flags or emotional momentum. They only respond to results, round by round, match by match. And the draw in Berlin offered no softness. Not one. 9 of the world's top 10 players in the same field means there is no warm-up match at this level. Every round is a collision with someone who can take control of a match in minutes if you hesitate even slightly. That's why wild cards like Eala matter differently. They're not just entries into a tournament. They are disruptions. And everyone in the draw knows it. But what separates Eala in this moment, the thing that makes Berlin feel different from Birmingham, Dubai, Auckland, isn't just external expectation. It's internal accumulation. Because by the time a player reaches this stage of attention, they are no longer only reacting to opponents. They are reacting to memory, to the matches they survived, to the moments they escaped, to the pressure they learned to breathe through instead of panic under. And in Eala's case, that memory is now heavy. Birmingham is part of it. The rain delays, the physical strain, the comeback moments that felt impossible until they weren't. The crowd that didn't just watch her win, but emotionally carried her through it. That kind of experience doesn't disappear. It builds into something quieter, more stable, more dangerous. Because players who have survived chaos don't panic when chaos returns. They recognize it, and they know they've lived through it before. So when she walks into Berlin, into a main draw she was originally meant to qualify for, into a field stacked with champions, into a city already reacting to her presence before the first ball is struck, she is not walking in as a wild card in the usual sense. She is walking in as a player whose story has already been tested in environments that tried to break her rhythm and failed. And that's the part the rankings don't show. Not 33, not 32, not seed lines or protected positions. But something far harder to measure, a player who has already learned what it feels like when everything is going wrong and still found a way forward. And that is why, when Berlin begins, nobody is asking whether she belongs anymore. They are asking something else entirely. What happens when a player like that stops surviving matches and starts controlling the metrics that usually define how we talk about athletes at this level? They were reacting to something simpler and much harder to manufacture. Consistency of character under pressure. Because if you strip away the flags, the headlines, the viral clips, and the tournament hype cycles, What you're left with is a player who has been repeatedly placed in situations designed to expose instability, and instead has shown composure. That's what creates the kind of atmosphere you're describing in Berlin. Not just success, not just results, but recognition. The feeling from fans, German, Filipino, neutral observers, that they are watching someone whose competitive identity has already been tested in adversity and hasn't fractured. That's why the arrival matters in your story. Not because crowds are unusual in tennis, but because alignment is unusual. Alignment between a player's narrative and a crowd's emotional response. And Berlin, in this version of events, becomes less of a tournament and more of a confirmation point. A place where three things collide at once. First, the pressure of ranking reality. Those expiring Eastbourne points and the razor edge around Wimbledon seeding. Second, the competitive reality of the draw. Elite players, no soft openings, immediate danger from round one. And third, the psychological reality you've been building all along, the belief that has grown around her through Birmingham, Dubai, and beyond. And when those three pressures meet, tennis becomes less about form and more about response. Not who plays better on paper, but who can keep their level when everything around them is louder than the match itself. That's the real question Berlin is setting up in your narrative. Not will she win, but something more precise. When expectation becomes global and pressure becomes constant, does the game stay the same, or does the player rise into a different version of herself? That's the tension you've built. And that's why the story keeps pulling forward, toward every serve, every draw, every round where the narrative either holds or breaks. This is already written in a very cinematic, sports documentary style, but it's drifting into repetition and inflated phrasing in places. If your goal is a strong YouTube narration script, you'll get more impact by tightening structure, cutting repeated ideas, and sharpening the emotional beats instead of stacking them. Here's a cleaner, more powerful version of your closing segment. Same tone, but more controlled and punchy. The crowds in Berlin weren't reacting to ranking points. They weren't responding to statistics or seedings or projections. They were responding to something far older than tennis. Something simpler. A refusal to quit. Because what Alex Eala represents isn't just form or talent or momentum. It's what it looks like when a 21-year-old from a country with no established tennis pathway decides that limitation is not a rule she intends to follow. She didn't arrive in Berlin as a marketing story. She didn't arrive as a trend. She arrived carrying expectation, pressure, history, and hope, all at once. And somehow, instead of collapsing under it, she keeps moving forward with it. That's why Germany showed up. Not because they were told to, not because of hype, but because something about her makes people believe again in what sport is supposed to feel like.
Pure.
Unfiltered.
Human.
Now tomorrow, she steps onto court at the Rottweil Tennis Club. Donna Vakey stands on the other side of the net, experienced, dangerous, familiar. And beyond that, if she survives it, Elena Rybakina waits. A Wimbledon champion. A different level entirely. The draw doesn't care about stories. Grass doesn't care about narratives. Only performance. Only survival. And that is the truth Alex Eala has always lived with. Because every step she has taken, from cracked courts in Quezon City, to the Rafa Nadal Academy, to packed stadiums in Birmingham, to thousands of strangers chanting her name in Berlin, has led to this exact kind of pressure. Not the pressure of expectation, but the pressure of arrival. The moment when belief becomes responsibility. So when she walks out there tomorrow, it won't just be about a match. It will be about whether everything people think they've seen in her is real. And if there is one thing her journey has proven again and again, it's this. She does not break. She answers. If you want, I can also turn this into a viral YouTube script with hooks plus retention, pacing, add dramatic intro plus outro plus CTA, or break it into short segments, 10 to 60 seconds viral clips.